I'm a robot vacuum cleaner, so yeah, I got one gig. I suck up dirt, so pardon my inferiority complex about Geico, who does so much more. Like, not only could they save their customers money on car insurance, but they got fast and friendly claim service too, and an award-winning mobile app. Plus access to licensed agents 24/7. Who am I kidding? I can't even do corners. Uh-oh, choking hazard.
Popcorn kernels.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
That's our way of making sure you're up and running as you got to go back to work. Get your 2018 started off right. Glad you're with us on a Tuesday morning. Trey Wingo, Mike Golick Jr. on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. What a wild night that was in college football last night with the two semifinal games and two completely different games, by the way, as Alabama and Georgia will be playing for the national championship in just under a week, an all SEC title game.
It felt like, quite honestly, a Sunday outside of a red zone channel where I just sit in front of the TV and watch football all day. I got to do that yesterday, or everybody did, but you got to watch complete games.
Right.
You know, there were 5 games. You know, you had Michigan and South Carolina starting at noon, UCF and Auburn starting at 12:30, and Notre Dame, LSU starting at 1. So you did have to flip back and forth to those games throughout, and then it wasn't much of a break after that to where you were leading into the Rose Bowl last night. So, man, you got your fill. You got your fill of football yesterday.
This isn't like something I've been told to do, but I really have to shout out the ESPN app. When you pull that up, if you're watching on like a computer or like a side screen like that, it allows you to do a multicast. So I had multiple games pulled up at once to watch on the screen, and it really helped because I wanted to watch UFC and Auburn while also making sure that Notre Dame properly dispatched LSU. So I got all that joy in one thanks to the multicast.
There you go. A, you're going to have to show me how to do that on the computer, and B, Booger now owes me because I won the bet.
What's up, Booger, RC?
And C, you forgot one thing.
What's
hey,
that?
You kids, get off my lawn. Show me how to work this technology, Junior.
What is the source of this?
I don't know what he said.
Here's the best part. He's talking about the app, and you said your computer.
Well,
you can use it on the computer.
Yeah, you can use it on the computer.
But you really use the app is really for mobile use.
Yeah, I mean the mobile.
Well, we're working things out here.
Put it on the mobile.
It's a new year. Give me some time to ease into it.
You got another day.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Lots to get into. Let's catch up on everything else that happened in sports with.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golick and Wingo.
We start off the top with, it took a while. Kind of like the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
Started at 5 and ended at midnight. But took a while to decide this year's NHL Winter Classic at Citi Field, but ultimately JT Miller's goal lifted the Rangers over the Sabres 3-2.
Yeah, Henrik Lundqvist, 4 outdoor wins, the most by any goaltender in NHL history. He also has the most career saves by a goalie born outside of North America. I love the Winter Classic hockey. I love it. And because I'm not out there playing it, whenever it happens, I want it to snow really hard out there and watch them playing like a whiteout. I think it is so cool.
Yeah, we always seem to wish those conditions on the people who are playing in them as long as it's not us. I'm excited because there's a Winter Classic game for the Blackhawks next year at Notre Dame Stadium. Right. That'll be great. But this one's particularly emotional for me because he passed 31 saves, surpassed Nikolai Hobby-Bulin for most career saves. That was the only hockey poster I had up on my wall when we lived in Arizona, the old Phoenix Coyotes there.
That's right.
It was Keith Tkachuk, Jeremy Roenick, and Nikolai Hobby-Bulin.
How about that? Nice job.
Staring at my bathroom wall every day.
Nicely done.
The God.
I have a great Keith Tkachuk story. Well, we'll get into it later.
Yeah.
We'll continue.
Off the top.
By the way, I can't believe it's been 10 years for the
10 years, yeah.
Right?
And I think it's really cool.
It's
I love it.
I was a little skeptical when they put it on New Year's Day because it was going up against
That's the
all
thing.
The bowl
that's
games.
an issue, yes.
I wish they could have owned a different day, but it's worked. It's become a thing.
It has.
So
I
good
agree.
for them. All right, we continue off the top. DeMar DeRozan scored a franchise record 52 points in Toronto's overtime win against Milwaukee, becoming, and again, the most oddly specific stat we could come up with, the first player ever with a 50-point game on New Year's Day.
He also joined James Harden and LeBron James as the only player to create more than 70 points in a game this season from points and assists. James Harden did that for 91 points on November 5th. He also did a 76-point game. LeBron did a 76-point game. DeRozan, 71-point game. You know, DeRozan with Toronto, Boston, you know, what's going to be that Washington, that team that is going to push Cleveland, I don't think it's going to be any team, but DeMar DeRozan, certainly a great night for him.
Yeah, Toronto's been an interesting case study the last couple of years. It's good enough to get you there, but not exactly good enough to get it done. So I sort of sequestered them over with Washington, the Wizards, where you understand they've got talented guys, especially in that backcourt, but ultimately I haven't seen any big change that they've made that suggests, I know they brought Serge Ibaka over the other year to try and maybe be that one piece, but nothing else that really drives the needle enough to say they're going to get over the hump.
Well, not only that, but you mentioned James Harden. Harden's going to be out at least 2 weeks with a grade 2 hamstring.
That worries me a little bit.
That's a significant
for recurring.
Well, not only that, but the 2 weeks is when they'll check him again. So it's not like, he'll be back in 2 weeks.
Reevaluate in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like Steph Curry was supposed to be back Christmas Day and didn't quite make it. So look, obviously it's a long season in the NBA, but I wouldn't say in 2 weeks just expect James Harden to be back there. That's going to be something that's going to be monitored going forward. We continue.
Off the top.
More NBA news. Isaiah Thomas getting set for his debut tonight as the Cavs guard will come off the bench against the Blazers, but he won't play tomorrow night against his old team, the Celtics.
Yeah, they want to start him tonight or get him. He'll come off the bench tonight, start him back tonight under a big-time minutes restriction. They don't want him going back-to-back games, so I'm sure there's a lot of people saying, why not sit him for one more night and have him start up, come back in off the injury against his former team. I think they'd rather like him more at full strength before he faces his old team. So I get it, and they need him. I mean, they need him back. The Cavaliers starting point guards this season between points per game, assists per game, and minutes per game ranked 29th, 29th, and 30th. So they need some help at that position. Ease him back as slowly as much as you need, so he is ready when they need him to be ready.
Yeah, it's tough when your plans before the season sound all great. You bring in Isaiah Thomas, you think, is Derrick Rose maybe going to push for more playing time? Was averaging 18 points last year, and then all of a sudden, the roller coaster of a year he's had personally, your best laid plans went by the wayside. This is timing up perfectly, by the way, with LeBron January, the usual cry for something along the way. Last year it was a playmaker. We'll see if Isaiah Thomas coming back fills that need enough, or if we start to get the passive-aggressive posts.
Well, look, I think that it's going to help, but the question then becomes, how much is it going to take for this to sort of get it right? Because what happened at the start of this season for the Cavs, they had the big opening night win, and then they really struggled trying to find a rhythm with all the new teammates, and I think that's going to be part of this going forward as well, with working Isaiah in there. But as you alluded to, they could certainly use help at that position.
Yes, they could.
It has been a serious problem.
Off the top.
And we close up off the top within the first 3 bowl games, because we'll talk a lot about the last two. Right, we will. First 3 bowl games on Monday, UCF beat number 7 Auburn. Again, Auburn, the team that beat the 2 teams that are playing for the national championship. Number 14, here we go. Notre Dame beat 17 LSU. Woo! And South Carolina topped Michigan.
Starting in order, the Michigan game was first, and we were texting throughout the game with our boy Darius, who was down at the game, enjoying the game. And what a nice comeback for South Carolina. Put up 26 or 23 points, outscored Michigan 23-10 in the second half to get that win. For this one, you look at Michigan, and it's that offensive side of the ball, Mike. That's obviously the quarterback injury early on hurt this team, but that's something Jim Harbaugh is known for, and he's going to have to fix and get a consistent quarterback in there. 4 field goals in this game mean you can't punch it in, you can't close the deal. You're settling for 3s instead of 7s, and that cost you in this game. You like the defense there, but going forward, a great win for South Carolina. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of people talking about Harbaugh and Michigan and turning that program back around again. Well, he's got a ways to go on the offensive side.
South Carolina is going to be an interesting team to watch. I think they get Jake Bentley, their quarterback, back, and they were without their best player in Deebo Samuel for most of the season, a guy who's going to be a Heisman Trophy contender next season. But for Michigan, I said it yesterday, with the jobs that opened in the NFL, it's the perfect storm for Harbaugh to be able to keep any sort of security and good feeling there, because they're always just a skate. He's like an ex with a past where you always think he's going to leave, and he gets to give you that impression again this offseason.
And then you look at UCF beating Auburn. Nice, a big win there for UCF. Get a nice pick 6 with about 5 minutes to go, 45-yard pick 6. To put them up 34-20 in that game. Then Auburn does get a touchdown with about 4 minutes to go, and UCF holds them off in that one. A great win for them. Their quarterback getting over 100 yards rushing in this game, who was Mackenzie Milton. Ran for 122 yards, completed under 50% of his passes, but he runs extremely well. But just a monster win for them that has now started this next talk about expanded playoffs and an undefeated team and the chance that they should get.
I don't care what happens. I don't really think Group of 5 teams belong in a Final Four as it's currently constructed. But if you're,
right, I agree with that.
If you're UCF, claim this national championship. Claim it and shout it from the mountaintops.
But we're talking about not as it's currently constructed, so that would be the issue going forward.
Oh
right.
Yeah, no, and
right.
I'm
talking about deconstruction here.
That's fine. I'm not concerned about it now. I'm just saying they need to, regardless of what I think or anyone else does, claim this national title and make someone take it from you.
Yeah, well, I don't blame them if they want to do that, huh? That would be pretty cool. And then quickly on the, maybe not quickly, but on the Notre Dame game, Notre Dame LSU, I mean, a game that was an ugly game, 3-0 at halftime. I mean, it was not a whole lot of scoring in this one until the fourth quarter, 25 points alone in the fourth quarter. Miles Boykin with the catch and run of the day. 55 yards, a one-handed kind of tap to himself catch, eluded a couple of would-be tacklers with a little over a minute to go in the game to give Notre Dame the 21-17 win. The issue for the Irish, I see going forward, Mike, is again, Brandon Wimbush was the starter all year, but the kid Book comes in and plays a lot in the first half, and then the entire second half he plays. So what happens next year? Now next year going into the season, that's been one thing with the Brian Kelly era. Rarely have you gone into the next season with the same quarterback from the previous season. Seems you're always changing quarterbacks.
Yeah, and it's not like Alabama where you roll into it with a different starter every year because they've been waiting and then all of a sudden get to come in later in their career and light it up. But for Notre Dame to overcome what they did, they had a lot of guys suspended because of mistakes that they had made, but a lot of offensive firepower suspended for that game that they were able to overcome. But you're right, having to steady out that quarterback position because you survived on a dominant ground game with probably the best offensive line you're going to have there in a while. I doubt you'll have two All-Americans on the same side of the line again for my lifetime.
Yeah, and you were held way under your average in rushing, too.
Exactly. So you're going to have to find a way to even out that attack.
You want to share anything that you'd like to spoils of victory after your bet with Booger?
You mean that I won from Booger? Again, I didn't make it really public about the bet because I said I wasn't betting anymore. But Booger then did yesterday. I'll let you try and figure it out.
Okay.
Where's LSU?
LSU's in Louisiana.
Okay. And what are they known for?
Well,
Tigers.
Well, they're known for lots of things.
Food-wise.
in
Pastry-wise.
New Orleans, beignets.
There you go.
All right, there you go.
All right, I won a bunch of beignets.
Congratulations.
There's a real stunner, right?
No, I did not see that coming at all.
Shock of the century.
The Harbaugh thing is interesting because you're right. Yeah. People will always be saying, and he can use that to his advantage. But at some point, Michigan's like, we need to get a quarterback, and we need to beat Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're
3 against Ohio State.
And if you're Jim Harbaugh, you can say, hey, man, Indy's got a quarterback that I like and know pretty well in all of this. How about this? Michigan, one of 2 teams in the FBS with no wins over a team with a winning record. Them and Missouri. The only 2 teams, all their wins came against teams with losing records.
I did not know that.
That's
now we know that.
That feels significant.
It is
for
powerful.
lack of a better term. All right, so those were the bowl games that did not involve the national championship semifinals, and of course the other 2 were the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. And the Rose Bowl was it was endlessly entertaining. The Georgia game where they came back again. They were down 17 points. To Oklahoma with 6 seconds to go in the first half. And then the failed squib kick. Momentum is a real thing. I believe that, especially in college football, maybe more than the NFL, because it seemed like Mighty Mo swung as soon as that guy, I don't remember who it was on Georgia's special teams, caught the ball, and because they kicked it right to him. And then the kicker went out there and kicked a 56-yard field goal, longest in Rose Bowl history, because, Oklahoma was going to get the ball to start second half. So they're up 17 points. They were doing whatever they wanted to on offense in the first half. And then to get not only that kick, which gave Georgia life, and Kirby Smart goes in there and has a great halftime talk. Whatever he said, he should bottle it and sell it to every coach that's ever down at the half for the rest of their lives. But then to come out with, I thought the most important thing after that, back-to-back 3-and-outs by that defense. Because Kirby Smart said it as he was leaving the field. Look, we're too anxious. We're too hyped up. We're all over the place. He got them settled down at halftime, and they came out and played the style of Georgia defense that, quite frankly, a lot of us, myself included, were expecting to see out of the Dogs from the get-go, and that really changed this game.
No, listen, I completely agree. And those stops, because they really hadn't stopped Oklahoma to the tune of Oklahoma had, 31 points and over 300 yards of total offense in the first half. I mean, you got to be thinking, oh, my God. But that squib kick, as I said, I hate him anyway. I get it was poorly executed, but I would never, 6 seconds ago, I would do that like pooch kickoff. Like kick it off to like that high kickoff
Sky
to let
kick,
your
yeah.
sky kick to let your cover team get down. A lot of times a guy fair catches it, but he certainly isn't going to catch it and bring it up for any amount of yards that's going to get him in contention for a field goal. That squib kick, man, I wouldn't even have it in my playbook, let alone try and do it in that situation, even though I do understand it was not done the way it was supposed to. But I'm with you, Trey. Those two stops coming out of the gate, those are momentum changers. And while they scored once on that, did Georgia, they didn't score again until the end of the third quarter. They outscored them 14-0 in the third quarter. It was just a matter of stopping Oklahoma. They were a freight train on the loose, and Georgia stopped them.
They certainly did, and that seemed to sort of give a little momentum to that offensive line of the ground game, which they really wanted to do. And they had a couple of huge gash runs in this. But that was the end of Baker Mayfield's college career. Again, a walk-on. He was at Texas Tech the same time as Pat Mahomes and Davis Webb, who's now in the Giants. The three of those guys were in the same quarterback room, which is ridiculous. Then he goes to Oklahoma, and he puts up all kinds of numbers, wins the Heisman Trophy, and after the game, when it finally hit him that this was his last time to wear that Sooner uniform, this is what he had to say.
Can't believe it's over. It's been a wild ride.
And, really had a tough time sort of composing himself there. And obviously you could tell from his voice with the sickness that he'd been dealing with. But now we're left with this quandary in Baker Mayfield, because I don't care what anyone says. He is going to be, for lack of a better term, the swing state when it comes to the NFL draft in April. He is going to be the guy that people will always either say, oh, I love that competitive spirit, I love the way he fires up his teammates, I love all that stuff, or he's going to be the guy that people are like, I don't know, he's slightly undersized, he's not as fast as Russell Wilson, can he be as accurate as Drew Brees for a guy with a smaller stature? I'm not sure about that. He's going to be the polarizing figure in the first round of that draft, because Adam Schefter was on our show earlier, a few weeks ago, and he said, look, he's going to go in the first round. The question becomes where he goes in the first round, and where do you judge all the positives with all the potential drawbacks in the NFL?
I think he's going to end up being probably the fourth quarterback taken in the first round if all those guys come out. And honestly, it'll work out better for him that way. We see the way we've heard the priority that guys like Josh Rosen have come out and said behind closed doors, I'd rather go lower to the right team than earlier to the wrong team. Baker may not have a choice, and that may be the best thing for him, especially in a time period where, I mean, you guys see it every weekend where more and more offensive coordinators are saying, we want to get these picks on the field earlier. They come from these spread attacks. Let's meld some of these principles into what we do and help them.
So he's a guy that with all the stuff that he did, from the planting the flag to the Kansas game, the grab.
By the way, the planting the flag, I have no problem with whatsoever.
I'm going through all the stuff that I don't have a problem with a lot of it.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I really don't. I mean, the Kansas thing where they weren't shaking hands. Now, you don't want to go up and down the sideline grabbing yourself and doing that whole thing. I get it, but I'm not looking at that and going, "Oh my God, I'm not drafting to get forward." His teammates love him. He's a magnet of a leader. No doubt about that. I want to like him so much to say I want him to do so well at the next level, but I don't know if he will. I don't know if he will because what's going to happen is forget stats, gang. The first thing you got to do is throw out stats and look at how they play. Look at how they play in the pocket. Look at how quickly do they run out of the pocket in pressure. Do they trust their legs to get out of danger before going through their progressions? Look at that. And when you look at the Big 12, the size of the windows he's throwing into. When you look at a game last night, when they closed those windows in the second half, how he struggled. That's what evaluators are going to do. They're going to look at the throws he has to make, the tight throws that he has to make. Or when his guys are open, where is he putting the ball? That's what they're going to look at a little more. And I think he struggles there. I think he struggles in the closing of the windows, when it gets a little tighter, when it's going to be more the timing routes, when you're throwing a guy open, not waiting for him to clear somebody.
I just think that's going to be less of it than stature, because look at the guys that we're talking about up top. I mean, Darnold, Rosen, and Allen both spent most of this season tossing a fair amount of interceptions, finding ways to do that. It's not like they lit the world on fire with accuracy, but they've got bigger arms and they've got more of the prototype. So I think that's what's going to land Baker further back in all those. I mean, those guys, one of those players is going to end up losing Hugh Jackson his job this season.
Listen, I agree with that. watching those guys play, I'm not sold on a lot of them. I got to do a lot more to look at. So I'm with you. So it's the fact that he struggles throwing like those guys did as well, but then you're right. You magnify that by now his size. How quickly is he trying? Because with those other guys, they're escaping to kind of get something going downfield, but they're going to hang in the pocket a little more. Does Baker book out of the pocket too soon? These are all the things you kind of look at the next level. That's why I said throw out the stats and look at what they're doing in the situations that are comparable on an NFL field.
And that's the thing that's hard for a lot of people to sort of understand, because the process is not about what they accomplished in college. It's how does that skill set translate to a different game in the NFL? And two of the things that people always talk about when you're looking at quarterbacks, number one, you're going to throw out of a spread or a shotgun a lot more in college than you will in the NFL. Now, you're seeing more of that in the NFL,
right.
But not the preponderance of times you will do it in the college game. And then there's the issue of not waiting for someone to be open, but throwing someone open, or throwing someone who's covered and putting it in a spot where only your receiver can get it. Those are the two things that really dictate, I think, from most player scouts' perspectives, where a quarterback goes at the next level. And I'll be the first to admit, they get it wrong a ton.
Mm-hmm.
They do. They were
Deshaun Watson.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, Dabo Swinney said it all along. He's Michael Jordan. And you know what? He put up more points in a game in his rookie year than Michael Jordan ever did in the NBA this past rookie season. So that's the issue. It's an inexact science, but just know that's what scouts are looking for.
Yep.
That's what they're looking for. And we'll hear this from Mel Kiper on his big board. He has him currently as the fourth quarterback, 13th overall prospect. And he's saying, I'm just hearing too much from scouts who love him and think he's going to be a first-round pick. He's one of the most difficult evaluations in this class. I love him on the field, but his size is going to be a question until he gets in front of scouts at the Senior Bowl. He hasn't said yet whether or not he's attending. He's listed as 6'1", but I think he's closer to 6 foot even. Then there's McShay. He has him as the fourth quarterback and 27th overall pick. He said he was my 9th-ranked quarterback entering the season. He's done a lot to improve his stock. The issue for him is that he doesn't have the ideal measurables. And people need to understand, whether it's right or wrong, measurables are what get you into the first round. And sometimes that's why you miss.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's why you see a lot of great players in the second or third round, because they throw measurables out because they're not afraid to be wrong on those
And I think
guys.
he's going to the Senior Bowl, is he not?
Yes, he is.
Said he's going to go to the Senior Bowl,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to Trey's point, they're using the measurables to try and justify getting you for cheap.
Right.
It may not be they think you're a bad player. They're just looking for how to get you out of the bargain.
Yeah, why should we buy you for what you may be worth when we can get you for less?
Shamarko Thomas was a great safety coming out of Syracuse my rookie year in Pittsburgh, and I remember he was like a second or third round pick for them, and Mike Tomlin looked at him and said, we got you in that round because you're a sawed-off linebacker, because you're shorter than the expectations need you to be for this. And so that could be what happens for Baker, but it's interesting with all these guys, because nowadays this puts more onus on coaching in the NFL than maybe ever before. And we've seen the Sean McVays of the world, the teams that have made it work. They overuse play action pass. They put these guys in position. You need great coaching to try and mask up what some of these offenses aren't going to create for you.
And again, this will be the process for the next 3.5 months.
Yes, it will.
For Baker Mayfield. But he will be that guy. He'll be the swing vote that has everybody's eyes on the draft. And that's why it's going to be a lot of fun with 4, maybe even depending on what happens with Lamar Jackson, 5 potential quarterbacks.
And you got Mason Rudolph.
Absolutely. Who is a big, strong guy that can sling it. Well, Bob Marley for you on Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive Insurance, and phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. But it's the one love that brings Tim Hasselback into our studios today, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, Straight Talk, Tim, right out of the gate. Best head coaching vacancy out there among the 6 is?
I think I would say Indianapolis.
Because of Andrew Luck. Assuming that he's healthy.
Andrew Luck in the division, I think, is why I would say that. And I know some people are really, really unsure about his health, but listen, I have to think, based on a shoulder injury, missing all the time that he missed, maybe some cleanup procedure, the amount of time he has to get ready, I would think that he's okay. And if that's the case, then I think that's a good spot. Look, you go to, they're all good jobs. I mean, honestly, I really do think they're all good jobs. There's 32 of them.
You sound like Buddy Nix, the old GM for the Bills. It's a good job.
Yeah, well, that was hysterical, by the way.
That was great.
Yeah, I do. I think they are, because there's so many quarterbacks on the move. The thing that usually makes you say, okay, hey, that's not a great job. Who's your quarterback? There's so many quarterbacks that could be on the move that a lot of these spots that don't have somebody could easily have somebody very good.
So in looking at the spots then, you have a young quarterback where you have your quarterback. I want to now, forgetting what's the best job, I want to know from you what type of head coach you'll get. So you look in Chicago, you have a young quarterback who's going to be the quarterback. In Oakland, you have a young quarterback who's going to be the quarterback. So would you now, we know the rumors of Gruden going there, who is a quarterback guy, but take him out of the equation for a moment. In situations like that where you know who the quarterback is and he's a young guy, would you go offensive-minded head coach?
I don't think I always would. I think that you're narrowing yourself down to doing that. The Bears want to be in a situation where Mitchell Trubisky develops. Well, the last offensive-minded head coach they had was Mark Trestman. How'd that work out?
Not great.
Not great. So I think that it's more important to just find the right guy for your team, and then hopefully in finding the right guy for your team, you figure out a way. Let's say, for example, it's Matt Patricia in Chicago.
The defensive coordinator for the Patriots, for the people who don't know.
So if that's the case, Matt Patricia is not going to be coaching the quarterback,
then
and so it's important,
hires, right?
Who do you hire? Right. And you know what? Maybe it's just better to hire somebody really good. Just hire somebody that their only focus is dealing with the offense and dealing with Trubisky and being in meetings with him, because the head coach can't be in the offensive install meetings. They have too many other responsibilities.
So if I could break down your central thesis here, hire someone who's good, is what you've said.
I think pretty much that's what I'm going for.
Pretty much.
No, but I do. I think this. I think the idea that you have to say, okay, hey, young quarterback, hire the offensive-minded guy. Listen, Brian Billick got hired, because of how good the offense was in Minnesota. In Baltimore, and they win a Super Bowl because their defense is so good. I think this idea that it just translates to, the offense is going to be good. You're not bringing the players with you, and so that's why, whether it's Dave Toub, the special teams coordinator in Kansas City, or whether, a hire like the John Harbaugh hire, that's why those make sense sometimes. Like, how'd the offense, getting ramped up with Ben McAdoo, how'd that work in New York? It
turns out it might have been more about Aaron Rodgers than Ben McAdoo in Green Bay.
Maybe so. And you know what? And Bill Belichick's a defensive-minded guy, but, man, seems like their offense is pretty darn good for the last decade.
No, actually, since about 2001.
Yeah, so even longer than
that. Tim Hasselbeck with us in studio. Okay, obviously, because of the team, it's one of the cornerstone franchises of the NFL. It's been around forever, the New York Football Giants. You've been there. You've been in that quarterback room with Eli Manning. What kind of coach do you think they need to bring into that team? Because clearly everything didn't work this season.
I think they need to go back to having a kind of a culture changer. And what I mean by that is, like, somebody like Coughlin's a culture changer. I think that you could argue that Sean McDermott's that as well. The guy that goes in, and when he gets the job, next thing you know, it's like, oh, wait a minute. The players' lounge, it no longer has TVs. Oh, wait a second. You need somebody to come in and do that. You need somebody to come in and completely change, kind of how comfortable everybody is in that scenario. I think that's what you need, especially when you have some of the guys on their team that seem to kind of be like, whether it's the New York environment, entitled, there's just a sense of like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Like, it might not be the best thing for the team, but it's good for me. I'm going to do that. You need to have somebody come in and change that. I believe that that's what a team like New York needs.
Boy, you know what'd be great? What Coughlin going back there? Wouldn't that be something?
You know what? He's in a pretty good situation in Jacksonville right now.
Obviously, that's not going to happen. But you want to talk about a bunch of players going, if he were to come back.
I think that's why guys from New England will be appealing to
for the structure
in New York, to basically say, you know what, like, there is something to this, the way that you deal with the
One
media.
Voice.
I think there's something to that. So it wouldn't surprise me if somebody kind of with that background or experience ends up there.
Well, real quickly, Dave Gettleman, the new GM, has already started that culture change. He's getting rid of a lot of people, including a guy that was been there since 2007, Jerry Ross.
Mm-hmm, right. Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they are that sweeping culture change has already begun there.
As far as now going back to the Gruden thing, listen, I'm all for anybody making all the money they can. If they want, if the rumors are out there of $10 million, more power to them. Grab the $10 million. But I can't see, forgetting if it's Gruden or anybody else, of why and how ownership stake in a team would work. I can't see how that would work. I can't see the other owners, because it has to be approved by the other owners. Why would the other owners approve that and open up their own Pandora's box? So do you see that one getting past the other owners? $10 million is fine. No issue. But to give part ownership to a coach?
That seems crazy to me because when you think about it, I think Mark Davis and his mother, I guess, right, own roughly 47% of the team. And I think it's valued at about $2.5 billion roughly. And so, look, 1% is $25 million in equity.
And do you get a vote on whether or not you're fired?
Yeah, how about
owner? That's the part that I can't quite get around.
But obviously, if you own 1% or you're not, probably
I'm going to vote no.
Some type of
I'm going to vote no
right.
for my firing.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I would think there would be a lot of owners saying, "Hey, listen, this is a bad road to go down." I mean, I'm sure that would be their perspective, but I'm with you, Mike, in terms of like. Listen, if you can get it, you can get it. Go swing the sledgehammer if you have it.
Yeah.
Well, what would Belichick's ownership be, right? If he wanted to go down that road in New England. Speaking of that, look, Patriots are 1, Steelers are 2. Give me any team that you think in the AFC that could upset the apple cart of those two meeting in Foxborough for the AFC Championship game. Or is there one?
I don't think there is one.
Yeah.
I mean,
it feels inevitable, right?
Had Bortles played, the last couple of weeks, the way he played in weeks, I guess it was like 13, 14, 15.
The previous 3 weeks, he was great.
He was amazing, against, the Colts and the Texans, I think he understood it, but also played great against Seattle. I mean, really well against Seattle. So I think there's got to be a little bit of concern that he's still Blake Bortles for them. If that wasn't the case, I would have thought, maybe there's a chance there, but I mean, you just look at some, the Buffalo, who knows what LaShawn McCoy's situation, and then obviously Kansas City, their defense has been decimated, and then you look at the Titans, and the Titans really have limped in. I mean, they've absolutely limped in. And that to me is a problem.
Over in the NFC, the literal number 1 seed is obviously the Philadelphia Eagles. Mm-hmm. You buy that, or do you think Minnesota?
Because it feels like Minnesota,
right?
Yeah,
doesn't
it does feel like Minnesota, and I kind of went back last night and was looking at the Foles stuff because I know that there's a lot of concern about Foles, and I don't think that it's as alarming as everyone's making it out to be about Foles, but I think they're drastically different. Their offense is just so much different without Carson Wentz. And look, in fairness to Nick Foles and the situation Philadelphia's in, take another playoff team whose quarterback brought them to the postseason this year in the NFC, who would be better off with their backup. I mean, is it, and actually you could just use you could use the NFC as well.
Right.
I mean, is Sam Bradford in Minnesota, is that the situation where you go, well, if you didn't, I don't know that that's the case. I think you might be in a very similar situation to what Philadelphia's in. So look, that's the situation. That's the hand that Philly's been dealt. And with that, your offense needs to change. You need to play a more traditional offense, and you're going to need to play a little bit more like the Falcons or the Patriots in terms of how you manage your quarterback.
The weird thing for the Eagles was how well Foles played in the first start. I mean, he basically did Carson Wentz numbers. He threw for 4 touchdowns, completed about 60-something% of his passes for 250 yards, and converted on. This is the weird part. 46% of his third downs, where Wentz was 45%, and then the last 2 games, I think they're 2 for $1 billion.
Yeah, but I don't think you can judge him so much on Week 17. Week 16 was a little alarming.
Was a problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see what happens. So you're on NFL Live today?
I am. Are you?
No, I'm not. But
I was going to say,
I'm not either.
Because if you are, you don't sleep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll see you Thursday in that scenario. Stay warm, and thanks for coming in.
Is it cold out?
Maybe, just a little bit.
Little bit.
-4, -5, whatever.
-4, by the way?
Yeah.
Looks like a guy sitting on a toilet.
And the thermometer in the car?
Yes.
Thanks for that.
This is the insight we brought you in for.
I figured you guys would like that.
The former guy that was in that chair talks about peeing his pants, so that makes all the sense in the world.
You can never go wrong with potty humor.
We're moving on. Thank you much. Enjoy your coffee, everybody. Coming up, football fans are, well, they're short for fanatic, but let's be clear. But they're also giving and thankful, and that's a cool story. We'll explain that next. Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Golic and Wingo, brought to you by Progressive Insurance. With more than 30 unique coverage options available, Progressive knows small business. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. I was going an hour ahead. I was giving us an hour into the show more than I thought.
Well, in that case, we can leave an hour early, so stick with that. I like where you're thinking. Well done.
That's where my head's at.
On Golic and Wingo. But yeah, you messed up because you were just hungry like the wolf.
There you go.
We get that. Innocuous 80s reference over the heads of 90% of the people listening or watching. But we're glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. So obviously one of the big things that happened over the weekend was the Buffalo Bills ending that playoff drought of 17 years, the longest active playoff drought, not only in the NFL, but in every sport, major sport in North America. And let's just say that the Bills fans have been a little ecstatic. We saw some of the video, even the ones at Hard Rock Stadium, where the Bills fans were at Miami watching the end of the Bengals game, in which Andy Dalton on a 4th and 12 from the 49-yard line threw a touchdown pass to Tyler Boyd with 49 seconds left, which was the game-winning score, which you combine that with the Bills clinging to life for their win over the Dolphins. They really need to work on their onside kick skills against the Dolphins, as Miami did that twice against them. But regardless, they won that game, and those two combinations put them into the playoffs. So the Bills put out a big tweet thanking the Bengals organization that are sending them wings.
Which is awesome.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But Bills fans themselves have done something which is really cool.
This has been really cool. Andy Dalton noticed he has a foundation, and he has he can check on his phone the donations, and he noticed that there were a ton of donations coming in after the game, and they were in $17 increments. And the $17, as it turns out, represents the 17 seasons between playoff berths for the Bills. So he's getting a ton, so much so of those donations, over 2,500 donors and just over $57,000 and counting of Bills fans that are donating to Andy Dalton's foundation. So while the wings are cool, and I'd be all on the wings, it's a fantastic thing. This is even better.
You know what?
You're thanking them. It was funny with the wings, but this is doing some real good. $17 at a time, doesn't matter. We always talk with the V Foundation. If it's $1, if it's $5, if it's $10, that stuff adds up. $17 increments is adding up to over $57,000 for Andy Dalton's foundation.
It's fantastic.
Yes,
that's in the last 24 hours. Yep. We can't thank you all enough. And, you give, especially the Bills Mafia, their fans, they can be a little crazy at the games with the table jumping and the ketchup and they're applying something, their passion in the right way, and this is just great. It's really awesome. Now, I would say that I'd like to see a shift now for the Bills because it's been very celebratory about them and their fans getting into the postseason.
Yeah.
Now you have a game to go win, which, by the way, is the Doug Marrone Bowl.
Yes, it is.
Former team that he left, then went in exile for a while, got his way back into Jacksonville. They'll be in Jacksonville. Let's focus on that now.
Each player should take their turn massaging LaShawn McCoy's ankle, though.
That is a huge
there's
concern.
The possibility that he can play in this game. The way he left that field, you thought there is no way he is going to be back. And obviously they could use Shady in this game to get a win. But just to put a capper on that, because all this money is going to Andy Dalton and his wife Jordan to their foundation. They formed the foundation after he was drafted by the Bengals in 2011. The foundation provides support, resources, opportunities, and life-changing experiences to seriously ill and physically challenged children and their families. So obviously it's a fantastic cause that Andy and his wife are part of, and that's a cool thing. Yeah. A funny ha-ha thing at first of we're going to send you wings and thanks for that, to something that truly can make a difference to some children and their families. So that's a great story right there. I really like that.
Look, and people always say you don't hear about that kind of stuff enough, and they may be right.
Right,
and it's nice for us to be able to put sort of a positive spin on something which was a terrible season for the Cincinnati Bengals, and obviously the Ravens don't care about this at all.
No.
We understand that, but something positive has really come out of this in a really, really good way. So the Bills fans should be feeling really good about themselves and also feel good about the things that you're doing with Andy Dalton. So well done all the way around. Bills Mafia, standing O to you.
Good on
Congratulations. All right, when we continue here on Golic and Wingo, we will have a former national champion in studio to discuss last night's semifinal games and preview the All-SEC title game. Plus, Bruce Arians will join us in the final hour. Can't wait to talk to him. Lots more coming for you on Golic and Wingo.